My guy. You are most definitely wrong, because if it didn't matter, it wouldn't have been written. So a lot of people would like to know, what color is Jesus? What color is God's Spirit? So let's talk about it. And before I get started, please understand that this is not about the color, but it's about the truth. Yes, the Messiah was a black man, and God made his son in his image. God says in the Bible that his spirit is the color of jasper, sardine stone. In Revelation, it says his head and his hairs were white like wool. This is the color of white woolly hair. Who the only ones with woolly hair that stand out from the rest of the people? Black people. It said his feet was unto the color of fine brass, burnt in a furnace. Now this picture is the color of fine brass burnt in a furnace. Extremely black. The Messiah was a very, very dark man. And I know a lot of y'all like to say, no, he's Middle Eastern. So if y'all believe that he's Middle Eastern, then y'all should know that the Middle East was a part of Africa, right? Full of black people. Dark black people. Wait, but y'all love to say, no, he's an olive skin color. Well, let me tell you something. I only know 2 different color olives. The green olive and the dark black olive. So tell me which one it is. There's pictures from the 13th century of a black Messiah and black saints. To be honest, almost everybody in the Bible was black. And a lot of them had locks. That's why I'm kind of glad that a lot of us are coming back to our roots. A lot of us are starting to get locks, because it's really a part of who we are. So the Messiah had hair like wool that was as white as snow. He was the color of fine brass burnt in a furnace. He was from the Middle East, which back in those times was Northeast Africa. So I don't know who this man is, or what agenda they trying to put out. Even if they didn't believe that the Messiah was black, the least they could have did was make the hair white, make the eyes red. Like I don't know who they thought they was fooling with that image. Like, that's the true deception of Christ. Most of those people in the Bible was blacker than coal. And a lot of them would tell you that their skin is black upon them. And please understand that this is not racist. It's the truth. And all I want to do is wake my people up to who they really are. Because we are more important than y'all ever know.
Is said to be black. Now, they are ranting here and there. What's really not happening? So let's watch this video, then have a quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
When you think of what Jesus looks like, what do you see? And Jesus Christ, known in Christian circles as the Son of God, is often depicted as a white man with long, luscious locks. But how did Jesus ever become so widely accepted as being white? Films, TV, even cartoons have been pushing this representation. And we can't forget when Megyn Kelly brought Jesus into her infamous Santa meltdown.
I mean, Jesus was a white man too, but you know, it's like...
Slow your roll. From what I can remember of my Sunday school days, the Bible stories take place in what is now called the Middle East. I chatted with Professor Carrie Day, an associate professor of constructive theology and African American religion at Princeton, to help me figure out where I should begin. How was Jesus physically described in the Bible?
We really don't see any depiction sort of phenotypically of what Jesus looks like in the biblical text. And that was intentional. I think that it's important to note that in the early Christian communities, there was actually an avoidance of putting images of Jesus. In general, images of God were seen as idolatry.
But we do know that in the Bible, Jesus' feet are compared to burnished bronze.
However you fall on what Revelation means, we already have clues. The first clue is that he was a Jewish man. They were nomadic people. Part of the misnomer is that a Jew is a Jew that phenotypically looks like a European Jew. And we tend to sort of ascribe that to the way Jesus looked and who Jesus was. But instead, what I'm suggesting is that you had all of these diverse diasporas, many of them that were Afro-Asiatic, that in many ways then helps us to reflect on Jesus in our contemporary language as a person of color.
So, Jesus might not be a white dude? This is a touchy subject, a hotly contested debate. Scholars, lay people, no one seems to agree. With all this Jesus speaking parables, I found myself having a tough time. So I called on someone who was called on by the Lord. Gary V. Simpson is the head pastor of the Concord Baptist Church of Christ. He's also an associate professor of homiletics.
When you want to sound important, it's just saying I'm the preaching professor, you say I teach homiletics.
Simpson was the son of a preacher, but coming up, he was pretty clear on what he believed Jesus looked like.
I never really got caught up in the kind of dominant whiteness of Christ. I know that there were depictions of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus in places because those were the people who were publishing the materials that we were reading in our local Sunday schools.
Can you just elaborate a bit on that, how we sort of came to have this widely accepted depiction?
I don't know how widely accepted it is. I think it is Westernly accepted. When we read the Bible and the expansion of Christianity, we're actually talking about its Western movement.
Y'all know what he's talking about. That saying, to the victor goes the spoils. Let's go all the way back to the 4th century. Here's how it went down. Constantine, an emperor in ancient Rome, converted to Christianity. Later, it was legalized and became the official religion of the Roman Empire.
Hallelujah.
Christians were no longer persecuted. This changed the entire game. As the Roman Empire expanded, so did its ideologies and cultures. And of course, the dominating representation of a European white Jesus.
From those moments on, expansion of this idea, we even talk about classical music or classic periods of art. We're really talking about Western period.
And Western like white.
And Western like white, yeah.
But the earliest paintings of Jesus popped up around the 3rd century CE. This is a couple of centuries after Jesus lived. So I hit up an art scholar who could take us back in time. This is Dr. Pamela Patton. She's the director of the Index of Medieval Art at Princeton University. So how did those illustrations look? Can you describe them for us?
A lot of them, especially the very, very early ones, were quite subtle. And this is because they emerged when Christianity was still not officially legal in the Roman Empire.
So initially, since Christianity wasn't legal, artists had to be discreet with their work. Fast forward to the 4th and 5th century, Christianity became the official Roman religion. Remember that whole spiel about Constantine?
That's when you begin to see more imperial, royal images of Christ. You see, enthroned figures. You see the sort of bearded philosopher type being brought in. So in early Christian images, we're talking about images that are made in the Mediterranean and the old Roman Empire. The people in charge there, the consumers and makers of images, are largely white people, white Mediterranean people. Later on, I think that color begins to acquire a kind of more self-conscious symbolic weight in a lot of images, and particularly by the middle of the Middle Ages, you start to see dark skin and light skin really becoming freighted with meanings.
So what did these colors mean?
As you follow the texts and eventually the images into the later Middle Ages, you see that people begin to use color visually as well as a metaphor for sinfulness or purity, and sometimes as a metaphor for sort of evil versus good. Later on, you also start to see color associated with foreignness and difference.
How have the expectations of portraits evolved from then to now?
I think it's important to recognize that the expectations people had of portraiture in the era when images of Jesus were developed.
Now, brothers and sisters, anything that was taught to us, anything that was brought for us to learn by the white people, it was distorted from the word go. It was meant to manipulate. It was meant to brainwash us so that we could be holding some perspectives about life. And we could think in a certain way that favors their policies on us. That's how they managed to colonize and take some of our brothers and sisters as their slaves. Now, I'm here to believe that if at all Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Messiah, was white and was never black, it couldn't be a big problem to them when some people claim that Jesus was black. Now, we saw the vaults in Russia were opened, yes, and we actually saw whatever happened, and Jesus was black. That was the result of the opening of the vaults by Putin, the president of Russia. Now, there are so many evidences around the world to support that Jesus was black. Now, go read the same Bible. You're going to learn how the Bible describes Jesus is on another level to show that Jesus was black. However much they might have distorted the information, they might have actually tried to manipulate, but they forgot to erase some parts of that Bible that supports Jesus was black. Now, the same white people are now coming out with the white rage. They are very angry, and we have seen the white lash in them, and they are saying that they are not going to acknowledge the black Jesus, that black Jesus should remain for the black people, and for them they are not going to acknowledge that. Now, the Olympics was just 1 month ago. We all saw whatever happened in the Paris Olympics. They tried to mock Jesus. They tried to mock Christianity as a religion. Now, that's not my issue. That's not my problem. Now, the problem is they are bitter because black people are now realizing and learning the truth. There are a lot of discoveries that have been done, and white people are slowly gaining momentum to the truth. That's their biggest worry. And if things continue this way, then we are going to see a world full of angry white people because they are not going to believe it. The truth is going to come out. That's why someone said, you can hide the truth for the longest time, but you won't hide the truth forever. In one way or the other, the truth will be known. The truth must come out. We are seeing the truth. And as a matter of fact, they are not happy. I don't know why they are not happy. They have enjoyed being on the superior side of humanity. Now, let's talk about this. We've been told that Satan, they have built the notion that Satan is black, and anything that is associated with black is bad. Now, we've been told black clothing are meant for mourning and when things are not okay, and white clothing are meant for peace. They are meant to show brighter days, good days, happier days. Who said that? Whose mentality was that? Jim Crow, Sir Columbus, or whose? Because for the longest time, the black people, the black community, have always been put in a way that it looks like they're inferior in a way. And when they realize that the black people are the most favored race by God or Allah, they started worrying and they started manipulating things. See how many interracial marriages are happening right now. They are saving their generations because they know sooner or later their generations will die. And that's when I drive my argument to Dr. Welsing. If you know the lady, Dr. Welsing, she's late. But she argued out that some days coming, the white people will want to save their generations. And for that case, they will come for black people. They will pretend to be loving black people, intermarry with them so that they might have Latinos or that color that is, Then after that, they will have saved their generation. And they'll continue putting black people on the prim. They'll continue with the atrocities that they have always drawn to black people. Now, brothers and sisters, I know it is high time you start accepting that black people are the chosen generation. Dr. Welsing once argued out that white people did not exist, that white people just came in in the way that black people have been there since the time of Adam. And I started by saying anything that is taught is anything that is distorted. If religion was taught to us, it came while distorted. If the Bible was at a point taught to us, we were meant and we were forcefully made to sit down to listen to the Bible verses, then they were being used to brainwash us. And there is something very strange that people will learn in the coming days, that it has not always been about white people. They just came and turned things around so that everything should be focused on them. The truth is coming out. The black people are going to learn the truth. It is going to be so unbearable for some people. It is going to be so unbearable. They'll come begging for forgiveness. Time is coming. My black brothers in the diaspora, do not give up. You watch the atrocities. Try as much as you can. Fight, fight, fight for your rights. But time is coming. People will be kneeling before black people. They'll be begging for forgiveness. But it will be too late. Everything. If you are a religious person and you believe in Christianity, there is a story told in the Bible about the Israelites. God wanted to punish them because of not listening to him. Now, through Joseph, who went to Egypt, later on, his family followed because of the problems that were happening in Israel. They followed him to Egypt, which is in Africa. Later on, it became a very big family. The 12 tribes of Israel were in Egypt. And what happened? You know what happened? Joseph dies, Jacob dies, everyone dies. Now, the families are left out in Egypt. And then what happens? Pharaoh now starts to make the lives of the Israelites so unbearable. For how long? For 400 years, the Israelites went through difficulties until God himself rescued them through Moses back to Canaan, the promised land. Brothers and sisters, a story is told about a transatlantic slave trade which took part between Africa and those countries, amongst them US, Europe as a continent. And our brothers and sisters were taken to the other side as slaves. 400 years later, the truth is coming out. If you know, you know. If you can think big, this is the time to think big. Do not give up. Continue believing in whatever you believe in. If you are a Christian, continue reading and believing in the same Bible. Know one thing. Anything that was taught, anything that we were made to sit down and listen to, was distorted. False information were contained in the information that was passed during that time. It was meant to brainwash the black people. They achieved that. Big time. We have been brainwashed for the longest time. The truth is coming out. Brothers and sisters, don't worry. Time is up. Some people will come on their knees begging. It will be too late. Thank you so much for having taken your time to watch this video. I appreciate so much. This is Eli from Africa, and if it's the first time you're coming across the channel, consider subscribing and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much.